My granddad used to have this joke. I don't know if it was a common joke or if he made it up, but it went like this. If you ever forgot something, like where you put your keys or why you walked into a room, you'd say, well, I always say when you age, memory is the second thing to go. And when somebody asked, what's the first? You'd reply, I forget. Rim shot. I still think about that joke. It's a good one. Not uproarious, but good construction, clever, and totally relatable. But as I age, I start thinking more and more about what is the first thing to go? And the answer that I've come up with is relevance. Commercial culture and pop culture focus on the young. Language changes, style changes, music changes, how we prioritize important issues changes. And as you get older, you start to really feel this divide between how you interact with the world and how the world interacts with you. And this can lead to what we call a midlife crisis. This can lead to surgeries and extreme diets. This can lead to infidelity or depression. We're not only trying to reclaim our youthful, healthy bodies, but also trying desperately to connect to a world that has moved on. Or rather, we've moved on and the world remained still. As Matthew McConaughey says in Dazed and Confused, every year I get older and they stay the same age. It's true on many levels, Wooderson. This week's film, Seconds, a moral thriller by John Frankenheimer, goes headlong into the midlife crisis of Arthur Hamilton in a pretty extreme way. What if you had the opportunity to be young, handsome, successful once again, to live beautifully, to make beauty, to be around beautiful people, as the kids today would say, totally awesome. But is it? Because maybe the sadness you feel isn't a wish to be young again. As Arthur, aka Tony, admits in this film, I never knew what I wanted. I don't know what I want. And that's true for most people their whole lives. Only in your middle age, you feel like it's all about relevance. If only you could get your importance back. If only people admired you like when you were young. But as Seconds demonstrates, it ain't that easy. Hi, Cecil.
Hi, Jeffrey.
Okay, so you have to go through the Seconds surgical procedure.
Okay,
What
sure.
what's your new name and job and where do you live?
Okay. Um, I always thought, well, I like my middle name, but I think that's too on the nose to like choose that as my new name. Something I like antique names, being a
Hmm.
Cecil. So, give me like this, Rock Hudson's name is Antiochus, which I think
Oh,
is like a
yes.
perfectly like pretentious name for a painter. So
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I would go with like Edmund.
Okay.
Edmund Russell is my new name. And what would I do? What would I do for work? It's got to be something that I'm like kind of good at, but not, really good at.
Right.
Um, I don't know. I'd go full Mad Men and do like advertising,
Oh, that's good.
you know. And where would I live? Yeah, let's go to New York City.
Yeah, sure. It's a great town. Yeah, I was trying to think that too. It's so, I think one of the most harrowing things in this film is him trying to pretend to be a painter as people
Right.
are asking him about his process. And I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's so, I mean, I could totally bullshit my way through artistic process conversations, I think, but that's also because there's a lot of similarity in artistic process. But like
Sure.
painting is, there's a
Uh-huh.
lot of specificity. And the moment
Yeah.
you run into somebody who knows something about it, you're gonna get called out.
Repetition, repetition, repetition.
I just paint naked. That's what I do.
Yeah, that's it. Oh my God. Yeah, I did wonder about that. They were like, "Oh, we're going to supply you with paintings, don't worry." And then eventually we'll just stop supplying you with paintings, and then by then you'll have developed your own style.
Yeah,
Easy.
easy. So easy. This is how art works. That's how
That's
simple
it.
art is.
So what's your
I
second
think
life?
I think I would okay, so I think the thing that I could do, like I'm not at the skill level to do either of these things professionally, but I think in the guise of this movie, if they threw me into it, I think my job is either bartender
Oh,
or
okay.
chef, like
Okay,
cook.
that's good.
Like I think I really enjoy doing those things.
Yeah.
It's really fun and I would love to have more time and resources and room to work on
Again,
those things.
repetition, repetition,
Repetition,
repetition.
yeah. And I think I would get good at it and I like the manic energy of a kitchen. There's
Yeah.
something about that satisfies the part of me that likes everything to work as a machine.
Yeah.
Um,
Then for like 4.5 hours every day, you're just like an insane kettle of manic energy, and then it's done.
yes. I don't know if I would. I don't. I like the antique name. That's really interesting. My grandfather's name was Louis, and I
Oh,
think
that's a good one.
I like the French spelling, and I like
Oh,
Louis,
Luis.
Louis. Uh, I sort of like that. I like the idea of like Louis is a good nickname.
Okay. Okay.
Just a tribute to the bear. I could live in Chicago. Love
They
Chicago.
great.
Yeah, great food town. New Orleans. Oh, you know what? New Orleans,
Oh, yeah.
incredible
New
food
Orleans
town.
seems like a good town for seconds.
And you could go by Louis very
Yeah.
easily there. It would be so good.
You would be a French vampire.
Yes. Actually, I want my name to be Lestat.
Okay, great. Hmm. So you're like, that's
Lestat's
my job.
Diner.
My job is vampire. Do I get benefits?
So we got this movie. We got seconds.
This movie was dope, Jeffrey.
This is a really good movie.
I'm glad we went with this choice because like it's always amazing to watch a film that has sort of slipped through your own cultural cracks.
Yeah.
Like clearly this is a movie people have heard of. It's on the Criterion
Uh-huh.
collection. Like I watched Alec Baldwin do an introduction for it, and like
Uh-huh.
people talk, I watched people talk about this movie, but like I had never heard of this.
No.
So it's great to be a middle-aged person and constantly be discovering things and constantly broadening your own horizons.
Yeah.
It's kind of a nice feeling.
Um, both the directors Park Chan-wook and Bong Joon-ho
Hmm.
both cited this as one of their favorite films of all time.
Ooh, hell yeah.
And it is so artistically done and yet so simple. It's not art housey in that way.
No.
And a lot of credit, I mentioned this last week when we were picking this movie, that the name that stuck out to me was James Wong Howe, the cinematographer, the DP of this film, who had already at this point in his career won two Oscars
Crazy.
for HUD and the Rose Tattoo. And this film is incredibly shot.
Yeah.
It-
Like the thing I kept thinking was every shot has a point of view.
Mhm.
Like it's not like it's very rare that it's just like a standard two shot of people talking heads talking to each other.
Yeah.
It's like the camera's pulled way, way back
Yeah.
at an angle to like show how small the figures are in the frame, or the camera's pushed way, 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 way in so we can see every drip of sweat
Mhm.
on Arthur Hamilton's face.
The sweat on his face in the closing scene is
Oh,
incredible. It's so good. And for a black and white film, like
I love it.
you get the richness of the color even without the color.
Can I change my answer?
Yeah.
I fuck Mad Men. I'm going to be a photographer.
Oh yeah.
That was my thing that I was like in high school I was really good at. That I
Mhm.
was like I really like taking pictures. I would absolutely be a photographer.
So what is your process, Cecil, while I shoot photos naked?
That's it. I have to be
Really?
naked
You
in the
run a
dark
family
room.
photo studio, Cecil.
Hmm.
Well, you know,
That's right.
I have to match the energy of my canvas, which is
I
also
feel like
rare.
there would be a market for naturalist nudist family portrait.
There's gotta be. There's gotta be. There's a market for everything, one.
Sure. You just have
And
to discover it.
yep. And naturalists, definitely. I've not been a
Naturalist
part of a
swinger
naturalist community.
portraits. Yep.
We're gonna go get our family photos made down at the Upside Down Pineapple, kids.
That's
Let's
it. Here
go.
we go.
All right, so it's interesting. Oh, I want to say this too. The construct of this movie is really interesting that because it begins and ends in kind of like nightmarish imagery.
Yeah.
And like the bookends of this film are true psychological horror.
Oh, yeah.
Like when you talk about psych horror, the setup and the end, and then in the
Yeah.
middle is like kind of a twisted romantic comedy of sorts.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating. It's a very Rock Hudson, right? Um, okay, so we get this. We start on these like like warped, fish-eyed views of things that are the images are twisted around, but we can see an eyeball on a close-up,
Yep.
mouth on a close-up, teeth, just surreal
An
face imagery
ear.
happening.
Yeah. With this like creepy organ music going on in the
Hmm.
background.
And then it
Body
ultimately ends
body
on a mask.
horror.
Yeah, body horror, and it ends on a masked man. This mask is one of the better like gauze masks we've seen since
Yeah.
like the orphanage.
Yeah.
It's real creepy.
Because it's not like it's just like cut out, like the mouth is just cut out. And it's also something creepy that like you can see the teeth
Yes.
through it.
Mm,
Nope,
mm.
don't like, do
No,
not like.
they did not even try to make this look cute.
No, they did not. This is not going on the Etsy page.
Okay, we're in Grand Central.
I love this sequence.
This
This
follow
is like
sequence.
full Shirley Jackson horror to
Hmm.
me. This is like Mad Men mid-century, like we're like there's a man being followed by another man in a hat.
Hmm.
We don't, nobody's speaking, nobody's saying anything. It's just like overwhelming sense of dread, even though it's just another day in New York City.
Yeah. And this guy's getting the Metro North, and he is the interesting thing is that there's two very particular there's a few camera tricks being used here, but one is the follow cam. Both actors here, the followed and the follower, are they have cameras attached to their bodies in the sense that
Yes.
like
They do
so
this a couple times in this movie.
yeah, so Arthur has got like the camera over his shoulder from behind, right? So we're just following him over his shoulder, like we're the one following him.
Yes. Creepy.
And the other shot is an upshot on the front of the follower, just kind of straight up his nose.
Yeah.
And he looks panty and sweaty and
Yeah.
in a hurry. It's disturbing.
Yeah.
But this follower, right as Arthur Hamilton gets on the Metro North, follower says, "Mr. Hamilton?" And it startles him, like, "You know my
Duh.
name?" And he
Yeah.
hands him a piece of paper and
Doors
walks off.
close.
Doors close. On this piece of paper that he checks out is an address, and it just says 34 Lafayette,
Okay. Sure.
right? And we see his home life, and Arthur is 50, let's say.
Yeah. I
Some,
think they say he's like 51.
yeah.
Yeah.
His daughter has graduated and moved out. She lives with her husband in California somewhere.
Yeah.
They don't talk much, as we kind of learn.
Yeah.
Just and now he's an empty nester with his wife Emily, and
Oh my God. I love like this actress is amazing. She's
mhm.
kind of like the like there's a lot of good things happening in this movie, but her performance is one of the like unsung heroes of
Yes,
this movie.
yeah. This is Frances Reed, who I was unfamiliar with, though she just was kind of one of those had the great job of just being a working actor her whole
Just a
life.
character actor. Yeah.
Yeah. And she was best known for playing Alice Horton on Days of Our Lives from 1965
Yes.
until 2007.
What? Damn, she's one of those. She's like, oh, she found her job and she is working on those daytime soaps.
Yes. Fun fact, she only managed to rank number 5 on the all-time list of longest serving soap
Oh my
opera actors in
God.
U.S. history. So there
That's
are four
amazing.
people who did this longer than 42 years.
That's amazing though. That
Yeah.
that's truly remarkable.
But his his relationship with Emily feels like a marriage of almost 30 years, and that
Yeah.
like we're just what do we think about doing this in the house? And I was
Yeah.
thinking about
Okay.
and so I talked to Jessica the other day and she's feeling great.
Yeah.
Um
Like Arthur has a lot of opinions about his daughter's husband's medical practice,
yes.
but no kind of words of kindness
Mm-mm.
or congratulations.
No, he just kind of like disappears into himself and into his job as a bank man.
Girl, same.
Yeah, it really does set up the man who is not happy in his life
Yeah.
and thinks it's because he deserves something more and not
Yeah.
something is owed to him.
Or his best days are behind him.
Yeah. And he's sad about losing his
Yeah.
relevance,
The
losing
golden
his
youth.
youth.
Yeah.
Yeah. She asks him, by the way, I heard you tromping around like at 2 in the morning last night on the phone. Who were you talking to? Oh, it's just a crazy prank.
Just a crank call. Just a crank call.
Uh,
Okay.
Arthur, don't answer crank calls. Don't stay on the phone.
I know.
But that night, the phone rings again while Arthur's in his office, like not in the living room or at the dining room table, not in the bedroom with Emily. He is locked away in his office. We've seen this before. We just watched The Sixth Sense.
Yeah. The
This is kind of,
darkest office ever.
yes,
This is like dark.
it's a
The
depressing.
beautiful, like the photography is beautiful here because it
Yeah,
is dark leather. This is a man cave of an office here.
yeah. Or actually, as they refer to it, as the study,
The study.
because we'll see what happens to the study
I
later in the
know.
film. Good for you, Emily. And
She's moving on.
that night, he gets this call again, and it's a man claiming to be his old friend Charlie Evans. But Charlie died
Yeah, you can't be
last year, a
Charlie.
couple years ago. You can't be Charlie.
Stop calling me here.
But he's like, hey, listen, on your mantle in your study, there's a photo of the two of us playing tennis. Also, if you look at the bottom of the tennis trophy, you carved Fidelis Eternus
Yeah.
into it with your belt back when we were in college together onto this trophy. Um, Only I could know that. So listen carefully. There's a cool thing happening. You should have gotten a little piece of paper with an address. Go to that address, tell them your name is Wilson,
And buy some Bitcoin.
and buy some Bitcoin. And Charlie is like, listen, I am more alive than I've been for 25 years. I feel great. Come on, let's do it. And this made me shudder because
Yeah.
it's just if it feels like the Ponzi scheme or the
Yes.
grifter scheme, the
Yeah.
pyramid
Yeah.
scheme of like wellness supplements or Amway. I mean, these
Hmm.
classic like multi-level marketing schemes that that I think were really huge. They
Yeah.
got really huge in suburban America in the 1950s and 60s. Okay, that night, Emily and Arthur get into an argument, but then they sort of make up. Emily like sees
Do
him.
they?
Well, in a way, like
Well, they don't even get into an argument. It's like a non-argument,
oh yeah, yeah.
because she's like, "Oh, I heard you talking on the phone." He's like, "Stop
Hmm.
cross-examining me." She's like, "Okay. Are you mad?" Nope, not mad at all. Just you being you. Like it's like they don't even have the energy to argue anymore
No, but there's a moment where she sees him across the room, or
from their
like
separate beds.
separate beds across, like almost across the room, like several feet away. But there's a wide shot of her looking at him, and he is sitting up, back to her, like legs. He's sitting side saddle on his single bed next to the lamp, and just his body is hunched,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's just a pensive, depressed looking man. And I think there's a moment of her sort of understanding that there's something more and wanting to get that out of him. And she kind of leans into it and gives him a kind hand on the back and a kind face and leans in to kiss him, and he just gives nothing back.
He's just frozen.
Yeah.
Like you can even tell like she's initiating sexy time.
Yeah.
Like, hey, remember me? Remember the love we used to have? And it's
Yeah.
literally like kissing a mannequin.
Yeah. This is where I had started really, really, my mind really was churning around that intro about how we we kind of misdiagnose ourselves as we get older, that we think we want something more, but actually it's just there's nothing you can do to get it back. And if you
Yeah.
could get it back, what really would you do with it? Ultimately, like this is just the trajectory of all human life. And the thing though about the way language changes with younger generations is we start having like terminology for mental illnesses. We start having terminology for things we go through like depression,
Mhm.
and we start thinking about mental health in different ways as one example of things that we do. And here's an era where we don't have that conversation for men
Yeah.
or women even to think
Yeah.
about what depression is. And that's clearly what this man is going through.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even when he does meet the company's psychologist, it's like the most Freudian abstracted terms
Hmm.
imaginable.
Yeah. Well, next day at work, he's mentally checked out still.
Oh, yeah. No, he's trying to dictate a letter to his secretary. This is the weirdest episode of Mad Men I've ever seen.
I know, yeah.
It really is. But yeah, he's checked out. He's like checking his clock. Little nitpicky thing. They never told him what time to show up. That was my like. It's that thing of like when you're watching a TV show and they're like, "Hey, do you want to go on a date? Yeah, absolutely. I'll pick you up tonight." And they never say a time, or
No, yeah.
like I'm like, "Oh, come on, just 1 o'clock."
Or
But I
how
guess we
nobody,
kind of we
yeah.
infer that because he's like checking his watch. It's almost 1. He can't wait to get out of there and solve this little mystery.
Uh-huh. Or how nobody ever says hello or goodbye on phone
Oh,
calls.
absolutely not.
Well, he goes to Lafayette, 34 Lafayette Street. It is a dry cleaner.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm Wilson. And he's real pushy about it. And finally, the old man says, they moved to a new address. Here you go. And he sends him to Honest Arnie, the used cow
Oh my
dealer, which is a
God.
giant, like,
I
meat
love
processing
it.
plant.
This is also some of the most beautiful photography. I mean, it's like kind of a hard, disgusting images, but it's
Yeah.
like gorgeously shot because it's so crystal clear.
Yeah.
Like meat,
Yeah.
which once we get into what the human body is they are in meat processing.
Yeah. I mean, as a New Yorker, I'm so excited to see New York City here. So I'm
Yeah.
so excited to
I mean, it's like
see.
when the meatpacking district was actually the meatpacking district and not a place to go get a $45 mojito.
Yep. No, it's like he went from Soho to Greenwich. Like he
Yeah.
went to, yeah, and it's to like Greenwich Street, right? And
Hmm.
um yeah, it's really great. I love this, and I loved the name of the company of Honest Arnie.
I
The
know.
used cow
Used
dealer.
cow.
It's so
I
good.
don't want my cows used. No, thank you. But there's a guy there who immediately is like, "Oh, Mr. Wilson, right this way." I love that they make him put on the the butcher meat processing outfit,
Yes.
literally just to walk through the plant.
Uh-huh.
But already this image, this idea of transformation, of taking somebody who is a banker, suit and tie guy, lives out in the burbs, upper middle class, and then taking him and then just by like putting on a smock and a hard hat, you're a different class, you're a different
Yeah.
person, you're a different job, just to walk through this plant.
Mm-hmm.
And then they tell him to get in the back of this truck. He's
Yep.
like, I'd rather sit in front. They're like, oh no, clients always sit in the back.
Uh-huh.
Don't worry, it'll be a short ride.
That's the thing
Like
about
he's
this.
being willingly kidnapped, Jeffrey.
Yeah. I so many like things that like touch on shit roaming around in my head all the time, but like there is an element to a lot of us, and I deal with this constantly, which is there's a difference between being kind and being agreeable to everything. You
Sure.
know what I mean? Like there's a way to yes and your way through life, but there's also a way to
Yes.
be critical. So when somebody's like, "Oh, I'd love it if you came to my party this weekend." You're like, "Well, I really should go. I should go to their party." But part of self-care is just, do you have the time? Do you have the energy
Yeah.
to do that? You don't, it would not be unkind to say, no, I can't do this.
Yeah.
But he kind of just keeps saying, I guess that's what I want. I guess this is
Yeah.
right. I guess this is what they want me to do. Sure.
I mean, considering his friend, his dead friend, called
Oh,
him on the phone and sent him on this wild goose chase.
yeah.
He has no idea what it's pertaining to. He has no idea what the company is. He has no idea who he's meeting, where he's going, what it's about. This is wild.
Because the two things
He's because he's getting disappeared. Like
yeah.
he's being plucked off the face of the earth.
And the only thing he's really going off of are the two pieces on his mantle, which is the photo of him and Charlie
Yes.
when they were young, and
Yep.
the trophy which signified that he was athletically excellent.
Yes.
He
Like
was
those are the
in
best days of his life.
prime physical shape.
Yep. He's a
And
Harvard man.
I'm a Harvard man. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what he's going off of is that photo and that trophy.
Yeah.
And he
He's
thinks,
chasing that dream.
yeah. Anyways, he gets up into this waiting room and they are constantly fucking with his head. Like
Oh,
this
yeah.
organization is not interested in your mental health
Oh, no.
whatsoever.
It's all manipulation. I mean,
It,
I just love the fact that he sits down and there's this one moment, it's so small and it must be intentional, in which he literally has two hats
hmm
and he doesn't know what to do with them.
mm,
Like he has like because he still has his meat processing outfit on and his hard hat, but the butcher it kind of gives him his own hat, his banker hat back. And he
yep.
kind of like, there's a moment where it's really subtle, but I was like, perfect visual metaphor of what this character is going through.
Yeah.
He has too many hats. He has too
Yeah.
many lives. He has two
Uh,
lives.
yeah. They leave him waiting in this waiting room for a long time, and he, at a certain point, gets up and he's like, fuck it, I'm going. He goes to the elevator. There's no button on the elevator.
Nope. Nope. So he just
And
kind of wanders around a little bit.
he does, and oh, actually, that happens second. First thing that happens in the waiting room, he passes out.
Oh, that's right. Well, he
Um,
gets, yeah. The
he's
very
been
helpful
drugged.
secretary is like, hey, do you want to, Mr. Ruby is going to be a minute. Do you want some tea and a sandwich? Yes, I would love tea and a sandwich. How very nice. He takes like one sip of that tea and then
Gone,
passes the fuck out.
passing out. And then he has this, we get back to this like fisheye lens of this like warped funhouse room, very Alice in Wonderland type of
Mhm.
feel. But there's a beautiful woman laying in bed, like in negligee, and she sits up and is screaming, but there's
Like
no like
silently
audience.
screaming. Yeah.
Yeah, just quiet screaming. And he is like sweaty and stumbling toward her, and then soon he's on top of her, and then he suddenly wakes up and he's back in the living room area, the waiting room.
This scene really, I mean, like one, the surreal imagery of it, I thought was like amazing.
Uh-huh.
But this scene really took me back. I was like, this guy doesn't seem like the kind of guy who would have like rape fantasy dreams.
No.
Like so I was very much like, what is this telling us about this character?
Yeah.
We're gonna find out exactly what this is telling us about this character. But I was fully led down the path.
Uh-huh.
I was like, this feels wrong and weird. Like this doesn't like this guy, this mild-mannered banker doesn't seem like the guy who's fantasizing about ravishing blondes against their will.
No.
But it's the 60s, so I don't, fucking know.
Yeah, and yeah, he's like the epitome of milk toast,
Yeah,
right? Like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this is so like outside the box. I was very like jarred by this
Yeah.
scene.
Well, this is where he walks out, tries to find the elevator, no button. He goes down a hallway. He finds a group of men just hunched over desks. They're like reading books. There's little TVs. They're playing
They're playing
solitaire.
solitaire. I know, I love it.
And he's like, "Can you tell me the way out of this building?" And no one is answering him.
Oh my God. The first guy who we learn actually like gives him this crazy look of like, what the fuck? And
Uh-huh.
you can tell he's not supposed to be in this room.
Yeah. And
Again,
there's
this is like some Shirley Jackson level of
it
like
is.
dread,
Uh-huh.
like unspoken dread of something is wrong. I can't put my finger on it.
Trust no one.
Trust no one, accept your own instincts.
Yeah.
But because of your polite society Metro North upbringing,
Yeah.
your instincts have been beaten out of you.
So this kind of nurse attendant instructor looking fella who's delivering everybody pills and water in this room
Yep.
is like, hey, actually, let me just intercom here. Yeah, yeah, you know what? Mr. Ruby is waiting for you now. You can go see
Okay.
him.
Okay.
Mr. Ruby. He's been assigned to go over the circumstances of your death with you. The cost is around $30,000.
Oh, that's very affordable.
Um,
I wonder what that would be with inflation. It's got to be like 100,000, two hundred
at
thousand
least,
dollars. Yeah.
at least. There's no way of even knowing how much $30,000 is worth in
But
1960.
$30,000 in 1960s money,
Well,
that's
the
a
crazy thing,
lot.
in some ways, it's worth easily 500,000 because
Oh,
you
yes.
could
Yeah.
buy a nice house for $30,000
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
1966. So, um, you could buy 30 cars.
Oh, my God.
So they explain that we're going to fake your death. We're going to use an existing corpse, put your shit on
Yeah.
that corpse, and then we're going to
Yeah.
put that corpse's shit on you.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do plastic surgery. You'll be, it's complicated. And
It's
then,
coming. You know what? I love the line. It's like your death, choosing your death might be the most decision you have to make in your life.
uh-huh.
Just like it's so dark, so dark, and I love it. This movie.
It's got some very funny lines. He starts talking about like a mach, like maybe death from some kind of machinery death, like something
Oh yeah,
falls on you or get hit by a truck. And then you can see Arthur's face is a little like, oh,
just like
like
recoil. Yeah.
yeah, it's this ghoulish. And he's like, too gross for you? How about a hotel fire?
Oh yeah, I was thinking hotel fire for you. Let's get you into a nice hotel fire. Your wife will love it. They're like, don't worry, your wife will be taken care of. Look, here's all the papers.
Uh-huh.
Your wife, your daughter will get a nice, healthy settlement from your life insurance.
Yeah.
We'll, of course, the company will take our cut,
Yeah.
and you'll get enough money to start your new life.
Yeah.
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. And he's not really into this, but Ruby's going for the hard sell. And then there's this old man that shows up that we will see a lot of.
Well, first it was so he balks it.
Oh
He's like,
yeah.
I can't do this. And then they're like, oh, well, okay, bring out the slide.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
Bring
Yep.
out the slideshow. And it's a filmed video of him like stumbling towards and ravishing a woman, the
Uh-huh.
woman from his dream. And
Yeah.
they're like, we don't like to consider it blackmail. It's really just insurance for you to keep your
Yeah.
mouth shut.
Yeah.
So he's in it, whether he wants to do this or not. It's either like get blackmailed that you raped somebody
Uh-huh.
and walk away, or you're part of the company now.
Yeah. And the old man is there and he says, isn't it easier to go forward when you know you can't go back?
Oh, I love it. This casting is like perfect. This
Yeah.
sort of like sweet as apple pie Americana old man that's
Hmm.
just nothing but smiles and like soft tones. Yes, yes, I know. Absolutely. Like he's somebody you would like, he reminded me of like a character from The Music Man.
Uh-huh.
Like just classic Americana that
This,
is just selling him a bill of goods.
yeah. I mean, this is the era of salesmen.
Yeah.
And
How to
this,
win friends and influence people.
yeah. And this
Yeah, if
movie
Mr.
really
And I
is
think you said no,
about
like
being
if Mr.
sold.
Ruby is like the hard sell, the brass tacks, this guy is like the velvet touch.
He gets to the personal reasons because he says, who's going
Oh
to
yeah.
miss you? Your wife?
Yeah.
And which is a great question because Arthur starts speaking and he can hear himself, which is the
Oh yeah.
worst thing.
Yeah.
Because
He's like,
he's
what
like,
about
well,
your
we
daughter?
get along fine. What about your daughter? We write letters occasionally. I mean, I don't
So
see her
she
very much,
so she
but
doesn't really need you. You're not in
Oh.
each other's life anymore.
And Arthur can hear himself. A great salesman gets you to convince
Yep.
yourself you need the product, which
And
is what this man does.
he's even like he's talking and he's like, I guess I've never really said this out loud. And he's like, the old man is like, yeah, don't worry. You just gotta like it's like he's turned therapist for him.
Totally. Yeah. And the old man says, like, this is kind of what happens with the dreams of youth,
Oh
you know?
God.
It's time for a change, and Arthur finally signs, go into surgery. I love the quick clip to the newspaper, just little
Yeah, I know.
article.
Obituary.
Yeah, obituary, noted banker Arthur Hamilton dies in hotel room fire.
Easy.
Uh, we see kind of quick flashes of surgery through this bent lens sort of thing and doing whatever else. And Arthur awakes to the creepy ass orphanage bandage around his face.
Well,
And
some of the I have to say these surgery scenes are like I'm sure for the 1960s this was provocative.
yeah,
And I heard that this was an actual nose surgery that they filmed.
uh-huh,
But it's like they're getting up in there.
yeah,
Like it's I mean it's not gory. It's not exploitative, but it feels very real.
yeah. It actually is. They do a great job of making this footage without ever once being gory or graphic
No.
feel upsetting. It is
Yeah.
an upsetting montage of surgical procedures because it looks like you're about to see it's the implication of what they're doing, which is like,
Yeah.
oh, that kind of exposed piece of flesh is about to just get like sliced.
Yeah.
Oh, that looks
And
like
I
an
love that
Adam's
they
apple they're
have up
reaching
on the
for.
wall, they've got like old man diagram face, old man face diagram, and then
Uh-huh.
young man face diagram.
Do you remember the Dr. Zizmore ads on the New York City
Yes, of
subways from the
course.
2000s, which it
Yeah.
would show kind of cartoon image of like a woman with an older face, and they're like, to imagine yourself younger, simply put your fingers along your temple and along your cheek and pull back. and, and it would show that diagram as that's exactly what these pictures are. Okay, we get a montage of physical training.
Yeah. The doctor checks in on him. He's like, don't try to speak. We've severed your vocal cords. They're rehealing, so your voice will be different. We've changed your fingerprints. We've actually changed the ligaments in your hand so that way your signature will be different.
Hmm.
Just a little bit of, where you're going to be in here for a bit. We're going to work on those muscle tissues, get you back up to shape, and you'll be good as new.
And he had all his teeth removed and will get new ones soon. That's part of why he's
Yikes.
panicking now because he has no teeth.
Yikes.
But he finally gets his face bandages cut off, rotate to mirror, and it is a scarred up but still very attractive Rock Hudson.
Yeah. In a like, and we see it like over his shoulder in this like triple mirror.
Uh-huh.
So good. And then it's like Rock Hudson, he's kind of got the stitches underneath his eyes and like, like that you can see the actual stitching. And he kind of like pulls way in. And
Uh-huh.
he's like, you can see him like the shock on his face of like unrecognizable.
Yeah. And he meets Davilo, the guidance advisor.
Oh my God, Davilo.
Love you, Davilo.
He's like, I'm your case manager.
I love this because he's like, they've already like, he's like, I'm going to talk to you about your future career. And then he starts to play a tape of the interview they did with Arthur when they had him under pentothal, like the
Yeah.
truth serum.
Yeah.
And then when he first presses play, you just hear Arthur slurring, I want a big red ball.
Uh,
And Davilo's like, oops, I
oh,
went too far back. Let's get
I
to the
thought he
good
said, I
part.
want a big red car.
Oh, as he said car. I think I
Which I
heard
think is
ball,
like
but
to me the ultimate. I mean, maybe I just heard car, but to me,
uh
car is like the ultimate. I want a big red sports car is the ultimate midlife crisis
oh
purchase.
yes. Uh-huh. Either way, it's just very funny hearing this like dumb sentence. And he's like,
Oh
whoops,
yeah.
too far back. Fast
Oh,
forward.
oh, oh.
And then we hear him say, like, I'd like to be a tennis pro. Well, if not that, what? And he's like, I'd like to paint pictures and things. So we
Okay.
decide I ought to be a painter. He should
Yeah.
be a painter. Yeah. I made up these fake degrees for you. Here's a bunch of
Yeah.
degrees to hang on your wall.
You studied in Europe.
Uh-huh.
You're mid, like you're in, well respected, but not important. You could just fly right,
Yeah.
you've got all the basis, but none of the prestige.
Yeah. So like it's not all eyes on you,
No.
but everyone knows you, loves you, and you're
Yeah.
respected. That's what you want, right? Is to be noted and
Yeah.
respected. Um, and he says, that's the thing is that you as this Tony Wilson, Antiochus Wilson,
Antiochus Wilson. Yeah.
Antiochus, yeah, Antiochus, Antiochus. This is my southern
Well
Antiochus
done.
Wilson.
Antiochus. Well, is that a Greek play?
It's my Antiochus.
It's my Antiochus. The-
Antiochus Wilson, Tony Wilson. You're already established, you're already accepted. You're going to be a bachelor now in the new world, accountable to no one. Real freedom. We got you a studio in Malibu, California.
Love it.
Okay, so the thing is, I understand, like, I fully buy why this character has such a hard time in this world.
Sure.
The film makes it completely understandable because he allowed himself to be kidnapped
Yeah.
and transformed out of the world, and he has immediate regrets. Like it is at Arrested Development voiceover, he regretted his mistake. Like
Yeah.
it's he regretted immediately. But I did have this thought of like, you know what? It's your life now.
Yeah.
This is a pretty good one.
I know. That's the lore,
You could suppress a lot of regret, really, if
right?
you had a beautiful home in Malibu and
I
lots
know.
of
Fucking Malibu on the beach.
and a servant, John, who makes
You
food and
got Anderson
drinks and
Cooper as your fucking butler.
yes.
What?
And listen,
Making
I
you
know this
martinis and shit?
I know this woman you're about to meet is just
Oh,
a plant by the company, as we'll get to, but she's beautiful and fun, and she has cool ass Wicker Man friends.
oh my God.
Anyway, we'll
Manic
get to
Pixie
that.
Dream Girl. Manic
God,
Pixie
manic pixie dream girl all the way.
1960 style. Manic Pixie Dream Poet.
Uh-huh. I
I,
do
I
like.
also
No, go ahead.
sorry. I love that like his journey begins on the airplane.
Hmm.
Like that's where we kind of see Tony Wilson's journey begin. Because there is something about I felt this my whole life, and I think it's a common thing of like when you're traveling, when you get on an airplane, it's that feeling of leaving behind the everydayness of your life, the routines, the places you go, the things you do, and this moment of thinking to yourself, whether it's true or not, that you're a mystery, you're an enigma. You could become anybody on a transatlantic flight
Hmm.
or, a TWA 1960s style air. And I also love the really subtle storytelling of this stewardess is giving him the once over. She's like,
Yeah.
wow, wow, hey there, hunka hunka meat. And Tony Wilson is like unused to this.
Yeah.
I mean, he's also probably the kind of guy who like didn't know what to do with it back when he was like 20,
Yeah.
25, but he's certainly not used to it now that he's like a 50-year-old man in a 25-year-old's body.
Yeah.
But he
He
just doesn't know what to do with the attention.
No, he really doesn't. He was never equipped for this kind of life, even as a young person. And I was gonna say that about this flight of the way this woman looks at him, and he immediately runs to the bathroom and takes his pills.
Like, yeah,
And he's a person, we'll see him soon about the way in which his personality opens up disastrously, but opens up when he drinks
sure.
heavily.
Yeah,
And it's really hard for him to find something internal to allow
yeah,
him to let go, as
yeah,
opposed
yeah,
to
yeah.
having external forces. There's a moment where some chummy man recognizes him at the
This I
baggage
didn't
claim.
get, Jeffrey. Did you understand this?
I don't know other than to say, as we'll learn, so many people in this world, they're, I think,
Are company men.
100% inhabited by company men.
That's what I thought. Like it's this idea of getting him used to his new identity. So the company man just sends because this guy who's like a character, he's like kind of like gregarious salesman drunk.
Yeah.
He's wearing a fucking tartan kind of,
Yeah.
he's a character.
Yeah.
Uses the name Tony Wilson.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh, but maybe he recognizes the Rock Hudson body, but no, he uses his name. But it's kind of clear it's like he's sent by the company just to get Mr. Wilson used to being Mr. Wilson, just to turn around at his own name
Yeah.
in a crowded space.
One way that I interpreted what this company does is, or what they're trying to do, which is they feel like the key to changing people, to making them better, is if you could make them young and healthy and beautiful and
Sure.
important and respectable, that they themselves would become that because
Would
that's what they
feel it.
want.
Yeah.
But honestly, we all want to feel young, healthy, talented, respectable. But those things aren't ever given to you. And
Yeah.
it's very hard work. And only some people really have the ability to, through genetics, look young for a long time,
Sure.
be healthy for a long time,
Yeah. The
be,
dedication to
yeah, and,
maintaining.
and
Yeah.
grow up in a family that kind of shows you love and respect and how to give and accept it graciously. And there's just so many factors that, like, we are who we are. And you
Yeah.
can put the most like socially awkward, repressed man into Rock Hudson's body and give him an environment of love and adoration and respect, and he will not know how to accept it.
Yeah.
And I think what the company is so frustrated with is like, we did our best work on you. We had
Yeah.
never made a more perfect human than
I
you.
know. I love that the doctor is like, "You're my best one yet."
Yeah.
Like this company is obsessed with perfecting their own system, as we're going to
Uh-huh.
kind of get the last monologue from the old man.
Yeah.
But I love that this is like Tony Wilson is like he's cutting edge.
Yeah.
He's the top of the line, top model.
Yeah. And one of the frustrations for me in this movie, not that I am fully in myself and do not have constant crises and existential and midlife both, but there is a part of me that, like, having already gone through like a big, relationship shift and separation in my life last year, that there is a thing where I'm like, oh, I'm already living somewhat of this, like, let's begin again and
Yeah,
let's figure out who I am while living on my own.
by
Where I see
yourself. Yeah,
this movie and I see Arthur slash Tony, and I'm like, fucking yeah, do it, man. That's
no, right?
great.
You're like yeah. Like you see the setup,
Uh-huh.
and I think that's really important because that's the shiny coating
Yeah.
that is so attractive of like they gave you a career, they gave you a house, they gave you a place, they gave you new friends, they gave you a new like all of that. They give you all you have to do is fill the shoes.
Yeah.
But that's the hard part.
It is the hard part because in
That
his
is
life,
the like every moment for the rest of your life, you have to fill those new shoes.
that is the hardest thing to do, is
Yeah,
to just fill your own shoes every fucking day. And when you have somebody there, they will help you forget that you
sure.
have to do that.
Yeah.
They will help you to do that, but
Never mind the fact that you're like in this case, this character literally had a schism,
yes, he
a
allowed
like
himself to
hard,
be kidnapped and fake
yeah,
killed. Yeah.
and is the like a hard divide of like, okay, remember that old life? Never think about that life again.
Yeah.
Just focus on the future.
Yeah.
The phrase "no matter where you go, there you are" kept
Hmm.
running through my head throughout this film.
Yeah.
This idea
Yeah.
of like you can take all the crazy vacations. You can move to Thailand. You can get a new job. You can completely rehab your wardrobe. You can get new friends, but no matter where you go, you are still there. That is you.
Hmm.
You bring your own baggage with you no matter where you go.
Yeah. Well, he is getting used to his new place and his servant.
Which is gorgeous, which is so mid-century, like magazine rack by the bedside, the modern art on the wall, fucking the view of the beach from
Fuck.
his living room. I was like,
From Malibu.
come on, dude.
You got this shit for $30,000? That is a
Right.
hell of a deal. I
Right.
think even for 1966 to get
Like
that
Cher
house.
is probably your next door neighbor. You've got your butler, Anderson Cooper, making you a martini and unpacking your shit for you.
Yeah.
Also, like I love a subtly sinister butler.
Yes.
One of my favorites. I mean, like The Servant is one of my favorite films.
Uh-huh.
Very just like, oh, here's somebody to help your life slash control your life.
So he is still reticent to be social as John, the servant, is like,
Yeah.
what about having people over this weekend?
It's
It's
like,
like, I'll
no,
do it
no,
on my own time.
no.
It's just a lot of solitude and time at the beach and practice at painting and drawing. And
I think he becomes very hung up on this false glory that he's been given.
yeah.
Because his studio is tricked out. Like, I mean, and the details of this are like there's paint on the paint rag. Like the
Uh-huh.
studio feels lived in,
Yeah.
worked in. And you could just tell he doesn't know what to do
No.
because he's a fucking banker.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so now he has to like imposter syndrome his way into becoming an artist.
Yeah.
And you can tell he's reluctant to show his face in the world until he like masters his craft,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Well, one day he runs into a woman on the beach, and it is Nora
Just by
Marcus.
happenstance.
It just so happens.
Oh, I
And
love her.
we know from the beginning, upon first meeting her, this woman is a
She's up
witch.
to something. She's up to
Like, I mean, like
something.
a good, like a commonplace, a daily, real person witch. Like she blesses the tides. She
Oh
faces
yeah.
towards the
She's talking
sunrise.
she
Yeah.
speaks in blank verse.
Uh-huh. She reads
Like
tea leaves.
she sits on the floor. This is the Mad Men part of this, of like the culture. Like I think, I was like, this movie's so good. Like I wonder if this could be remade into something today, like
Yeah.
take it and then revise it from the novel, from the movie. But this really feels, as someone who was not alive during the 60s, but this clash feels to me so, and like the epitome of what the 60s was, of the old guard meeting the new guard, of the investment banker who's kind of tired of his Madison Avenue life, moves to California and meets a free spirit and thinks, if I just change my name and change my shoes and change my girlfriend, my wife,
Hmm.
my surroundings, I'll be a different person. It's the age of Aquarius, and then is completely unequipped to deal with that change.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really, really hard. Really, really, really hard. And she kind of tells him how she used to be married. She had this
Yeah. She
beautiful
had two
house. She's got two
kids.
kids and a husband. She left 4 years ago, never went back. She's like, I'm different now. She kind
He's
of
like,
tells,
I get the feeling.
she's like, you don't really understand. You're an artist.
Yeah, I know, right? But just like knowing that she's from the company,
Yeah.
it's the perfect like guide into his new life, because here she presents herself as somebody who did the thing
Uh-huh.
he wished he had the guts to do.
Yeah.
She had a family. She says, she's like, we had a toaster, we had a fridge, ad infinitum, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I walked away from all of it.
Yeah.
She made a choice in her life and was like, no, I'm not living the life that I want to live. I'm going to go live out by the beach in Malibu. That's where my heart is calling me.
Yeah.
And secretly, that's what uh, Arthur Hamilton maybe wished he could have done, like divorce his wife, make break up that happy home in Schenectady, New York, or wherever the fuck they were.
Yeah, Scarsdale.
But Scarsdale, of course, Scarsdale. But he didn't have the guts to actually do it in his own lifetime.
Yeah.
He had to have the company com- like completely make this fabrication for him.
Yeah. And it's scary. It's scary to do that thing. And he's
Oh yeah,
terrified of it because, here's the easiest path to that where they give you everything you could possibly need. You
that's it.
don't have to worry about rent. You don't have to worry about like
Nope.
what your identity is. You don't need to, you're handsome and young and all this sort of stuff. And he's just not built for this at all. And
Yeah.
she's trying to show him this is what happens to some people. You
Yeah.
reach a point where you have to separate. She's trying to demonstrate how, in the same way that I think that man at the baggage carousel was trying to say, like, look at how loved you are. Like, people are like, oh my God,
Yeah.
you're a
I
delightful man. I
wish I could
cannot
get a
wait.
drink with you. You're always such a great guy, but I got to catch this flight.
And this company is trying very hard to model what this good life could be.
Yeah.
And he can't get into it. Well, she says she's going up to Santa Barbara tomorrow. And he's like, can I
Uh-huh.
come with you? She's like, it's gonna be pretty wild.
Yeah. How wild could it possibly get?
Wicker Man parade.
Yes, this sequence is fucking dope. And this is where I think that director of photography like earned his stripes in this movie. This is all like handheld, natural light of a grape stomping
Yeah.
procession.
Yeah.
Like hippies in a forest,
Yeah.
drinking wine, throwing grapes into a vat, getting naked, and playing the flute badly.
Yep. It's all like Dionysian,
Yeah.
Bacchanal, whatever. It's just like it's all of this shit. People with uh laurel
Grape leaves in their
wreaths.
fucking
Yeah,
hair.
yeah, yeah. It's so good. I saw a thing where Frankenheimer, the director, had said that, the US distributors made him take the nudity out of the scene
Oh, really?
for American audiences because it
Of
was
course they
indecent.
did.
And he's like, the thing is it made the scene more indecent because when you take the nudity out, when you kind
Yeah.
of show what the nudity is about, stripping down everything,
Yeah.
what ends up happening is what ended up happening is the whole thing looked like they were having an
It
orgy
becomes lurid.
in a grape vat, wine
Yeah.
vat.
As opposed to like a naturalist nudist
Yes.
hippie 60s
Yeah.
kind of thing. Yeah.
Because there's nothing sexual happening
No.
here other than like just the freedom of everything. But nobody's
Yeah.
like fucking in the
No.
grapes. Nobody is.
But they are naked
They
and
are
they
naked.
are next to it. They're tightly, and like that to me is like even more erotic
Uh-huh.
rather than lurid because it is that feeling of freedom of being comfortable in your own skin and being
Yeah.
comfortable in your own skin with other people and comfortable in their own skin. Some people are naked, some people are not, but mostly it's watching Rock Hudson zip up his little windbreaker all the way to the
To the top.
top. Like this man is so buttoned up. Like and it's interesting, like learning about sort of the history of this film. Like Rock Hudson was like famous for Rock Hudson, Doris Day, Pillow Talk,
Uh-huh.
light, happy, fluffy comedies. And then this was kind of his vehicle to like be a serious actor. And this is where you really see him embodying a character. So in the middle of this bacchanalia, he is so buttoned up.
He looks like a
He
narc.
is he is so uncomfortable.
Yeah. And he keeps resisting and Nora's like, I want to let dance. He's like, but I'm
Yeah.
not part of this. This is not who I am. Like I'm
Yeah.
not this is not where I'm supposed to be. And he doesn't get it. Like he doesn't understand but the counterculture like many cultures, but a counterculture wants you there if you want
Yeah.
to be there, if you want
Yeah.
to be part of it. And then she strips naked too and jumps into the vat. And he's trying to do this like, Nora, get back here, get
Yeah.
out of there. It's like son, you just met this woman yesterday. Even if you'd
Yesterday.
been
Yeah.
married to her for 15 years, you don't have any right to tell her what
You
to do or
jumped onto
not to
her
do.
plans for that
Yeah.
Saturday.
But people grab him and strip him and throw him into the grapes. Nora's like, she keeps the scene didn't make total sense to me because she keeps ignoring his like, woman, get out of here.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
she's like,
yeah.
come on, kiss me. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no woman is doing this. But then you realize she works for the fucking company.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
But then soon he's screaming, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Like he gets
Yeah.
baptized in grape mash.
Yep.
Thank God he's finally good to go.
Is he?
We wish. We think that's what it
You know,
is that he's had a break.
isn't that the thing? You have like one breakthrough and you're like, yes, I had this one amazing Saturday in which I let all my inhibitions go. And
And I've
there's like
canceled
the
therapy because I no
that's
longer
it,
need
done.
it.
I don't need it anymore.
I beat the final boss
That's it.
of my
Of mental
anxieties.
health. Yep. And then it's like the two of them kind of sitting on together on a rock in Malibu. Very
Mm.
gorgeous photography of like, you know, black and white, dusky seaside photography. And then we get to the party scene.
God, this made me so tense. Like this is to me the most horrifying scene of this movie because it
I
is
mean, I thought about you and your obsession with Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf
uh-huh.
because
Yeah.
that idea of like 1960s cocktail culture,
Yes.
like the Breakfast at Tiffany's, Who's Afraid of Virginia, like this is that.
I think the thing that I always loved about Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf is that our main characters in that are always 100% in control. Now they're constantly
Mm-hmm.
being knocked down or having
They're
the
playing a
rug pulled
game,
out.
but
They're
they know
playing
they're
a
playing a
game.
game.
It is boxing. So like
Yeah,
your fighter may get like knocked silly and thrown into the ropes, but they always know the game and they
yeah,
know the rules of the game.
yeah,
And this is a moment where our main character does not understand the rules of the
no,
game. And so he is out of control with his one, he's drinking too much.
yep.
He's being flirty with Nora. She's like, yes, but honey, it's not like you to
I
drink so
know.
much. Just go
Come on,
easy
keep
on
it.
the
You're
thing.
the host. You're the host of this party.
And Rock Hudson plays drunk so well in this.
Fun fact, he actually got like wasted for this.
Oh, for this scene,
Like he actually like for a lot of this, he just got really fucking drunk. Maybe
he's
not
so
all of it
great.
because it, but
Yeah.
he, and again, there's a lot of this, the sort of the camera strapped to his back. So we're kind of like following him, weaving throughout people, and he's kind of nudging, you can see him kind of falling into people, but it's that intimacy of like we're right on his shoulder going
Yeah.
through this loud, chaotic cocktail party.
Yeah.
Like you feel like you're there.
There's lots of different characters that he interacts with here, but primarily is this couple, and he learns that the man in this couple, Hank, is a Harvard man. And he's like, "Oh, you're a Harvard man. I'm a Harvard man."
And everyone around him goes, hey, maybe it's time to get some food over here.
Yes.
Very subtle social cues at first.
I love this too because it lets us know, especially once you kind of know what's happening.
Yeah.
Because I didn't in this part. Like I didn't fully understand
Oh,
that these are all company plants. Like as I'm watching the movie. But once I understood that everybody is kind of a company plant, I'm like, oh, they're constantly product testing. They're
yeah.
doing evaluation constantly
Oh,
on.
yeah, yeah,
So like the
yeah.
man at the luggage carousel,
Yep.
he's trying to keep it pumped up. Nora's there to keep it pumped up.
Yep.
John is there to keep it pumped up. And then also we've got to check. There's a little bit of beta testing constantly
Yeah.
happening here.
How's he
In that,
doing?
how's he
How's
doing?
he?
Let's mention Harvard and see if he starts singing the fucking Harvard fight song, which he
Uh-oh.
will.
Yeah. I see. I kind of knew that they were all company men
Okay.
because he makes this offhanded comment when he first moves into the apartment to his butler. The butler's trying to get him to throw a cocktail party, and he's like, "Oh gosh, I hope there aren't other artists." in like, but he's like, no, no, there's writers and there's this, that, and the other. And it kind of makes it sound like his neighbors, if not were part of the company,
Uh-huh.
are all seconds.
Yes.
That's what I thought. It's this like whole little neighborhood of people who have been given second lives.
Totally makes sense. That I think that 100% makes sense. Well, there's also this older woman that is
I
just
love her.
enamored with Tony and talking to him. And this is so silly, but it's adorable. And she's like, I belong to a very particular group. And he's like, I hope it's not subversive. And she's like, oh
Oh
no,
no,
no.
no,
We would
no.
never be subversive. No, we change sex.
Every month.
Every month
He's
we
like, you
change
change
sex.
sex. He's like, no, no, SECTS. Sex. Like, okay, like right now we worship Quetzalcoatl and we're doing Mayan.
Uh-huh.
And then next month we're Presbyterian. And then
Yes.
the month after that, we're Hindu. But
Um,
that, again, very 60s,
yeah.
very like they've busted open the traditions and now they're like, I don't know, anything goes.
Yeah.
Let's give it a shot.
Yep.
Let's start a cult.
Uh-huh. He at one point in time he's so drunk and he spills a drink on this woman's dress. She fucking loses her fucking mind, but I'm
I
like,
know.
you know this man is drunk.
Girl,
Just
girl, you had a cocktail party.
just everybody be fucking cool.
Yeah. The butler's trying to take care of it. Yeah.
But eventually he's really taken with Hank from Harvard and he
Yeah. He's
starts
kind of
singing the Harvard
obsessed.
fight song and he eventually says the name Arthur Hamilton and these
Yeah.
men pick him up, like all of these men.
Like 7 men pick him up and carry him into his bedroom.
And they are hunched over him and that's where John, our servant, is hunched over too. And he's like, John, why are these men doing that? And he's like, they're all reborns too.
Yeah.
And then Nora storms in and she's
She's
mad as
pissed.
shit.
Like, who do you think you are?
Shut up. Damn you.
Yeah. You've been given exactly what you wanted. Act like it.
Yeah. It's so funny, like how much we are still children, even as adults.
Yeah.
And that's what he's going through. Like
Yeah.
he's reverted to behavior like a child because like he is lost. Like he's a very
Yeah.
lost man.
He's also pushing boundaries.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't know where he begins or ends. So he's like desperately trying to grab onto what he knows,
Yeah.
which is his previous life.
Yeah. Charlie calls him that night and he's like, do you realize how dangerous it is what you're doing? And Tony can't be hearing it.
Yeah.
Like I can't be whatever.
But Charlie's
And
like, we're so close.
we're
We're
so
so close,
close.
you and I.
But he says, he tells him, Nora is not a reborn. She works for the company.
Yeah.
And he's like, listen, you and I were kind of tied together, hard to explain,
Yeah.
jibber
Yeah.
jabber, jibber jabber. Just hold it together, okay? And he doesn't hold it together because he goes to the airport so he can fly home to Scarsdale. Oh, wait, there we go. But he doesn't hold it together. He goes to the airport so he can fly home to Scarsdale.
Damn, that's a move.
And it's not very smart because he knows these people are going to follow
These
him.
people are fucking tracking his every move.
Um, he meets with Emily, his wife, claiming to be a friend of Arthur's, an
Mhm.
artist.
Who only met him like a year ago before he passed away, which
Uh-huh.
is why she's never heard of him.
Yeah. And he says, I'm really interested. Arthur mentioned I loved his watercolors. This is an amateur painter. He did these beautiful watercolors. And um, he mentioned that he kept them in the garage. And I wondered if I could get one of them for a memento. And she says, hey, yeah, we already redid the garage.
Yeah, we cleaned out the garage. And he's like, you just threw them away? She's like, yeah, something like that.
Yep. And he's looking around. He said, didn't this used to be the study? Sure,
Well,
it
one,
was.
how do you know it used to be the
Yep.
study? You who've never, he's like, Arthur really told me a lot about this house and his life. And she's like, well, that's weird because Arthur never talked about anything that
Yeah.
much.
This line is so cutting because we know that it's Arthur in this
Of
body.
course.
And she says to Tony, I remember him most for his silences.
Oof.
He
Oof.
lived as if he were a stranger here.
Ooh.
And it's just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And she says finally, Arthur had been dead for a long time before they found him in that hotel room.
Oof. Girl, same.
And the way in which there's no fondness. It's not like that there's no love, but there's
No,
no like whimsical fondness. There's no tear shed by Emily
no.
here.
Well, it's also the fact that she's just kind of saying these very frank things
Yeah.
about her ex-husband, her dead husband, to this relative stranger.
Yeah.
Like she's open. She's like, "Oh, you want to know about Arthur? All right.
Yeah.
This is what I thought of him."
Yeah.
I mean, she also kind of like she doesn't like she pushes back at Tony's story. She's like, "What are you painting a posthumous portrait?" Ha ha ha. And he's like, "No, this is no joke." She's like, "Oh, okay. All right."
Well,
But she's
she,
like, but she's so like, she very much expresses what she's like, "You want to know? I'll tell you exactly who Arthur Hamilton was."
yeah, he
And that
was,
truth hurts.
yeah, he was a nothing burger. He was absorbed. There was something, I didn't write it down, but she says something along the lines of like he was so absorbed in his job and that
Yeah.
he thought,
Things. It's all about wanting to get things. And he
and then when
thought
he
every
got
time
them,
he got a
he
new
was
thing,
disappointed. He just never
yes,
was happy with what he achieved. So the only thing she has left over is Arthur's old tennis trophy.
of course.
And that's what she gives him
There
with
you
the
go.
Fidelis Eternus or whatever it says on it.
Forever faithful.
Yeah. And then, oh, John's here. Why don't
It's
you
also
hop in
like
the back of this car?
I mean, this is also like a great camera trick because it's like Rock Hudson walking down Main Street, USA, like not Main Street, but like Picket Fence,
Hmm.
USA. He's all by himself. He pulls out the trophy. It's kind of a close up, and then this car appears out of fucking nowhere.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't drive up. It is just there
Yeah.
next to him.
Yep. And the men in the car and Tony both have the look of like, yep, we knew. Well, time to go. You did your thing.
Yeah.
Hop in.
Hope it was worth it.
And Tony tells John, I want to go back to the company and start all over. Like Tony Wilson can die, right? Like, and John was like, I think so, sir.
Yeah, I think we can handle that. Yeah, you've had your seconds. Now it's time for thirds,
Yeah.
right?
So he goes back to Ruby, and Ruby's like, great, we can totally do that. 100%. That's what we do here.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just curious though, like, you know how you were sponsored into this? Do you have somebody? Oh, there we go. You know how you were sponsored into this? Do you have someone you could sponsor or
Oh
recommend
my
into
God.
this?
As soon as he said that, it makes total sense.
Uh-huh.
But also, it makes me feel so creepy, so creeped out because then I was like, it's a pyramid scheme.
It is. Yeah.
It's a pyramid scheme. Oh no. It just goes on and on forever.
This is Avon and Amway and all of that shit.
Well,
Mary
and it
Kay.
makes
Yeah.
it makes total sense because like there's a moment where Tony, new Tony, is looking at his degrees from all these art colleges and things. He's like, I've heard of these universities. How is this possible? And I think like the doctor sort of says like, oh, no worry, like everything is absolutely legit. The implication is that there are seconds infiltrated throughout permeated into everywhere in the sort of upper upper echelons of society.
Hmm.
That men and women have been taking second, third lives for a while. So that
Hmm.
way you can call up the president of Harvard and be like, hey, we got a new, we got a, the company calling.
Yeah.
We need you to grandfather somebody into Harvard.
Yeah.
And I think that touches on something that this society is still dealing with to this day, of that privilege of class,
Yeah.
of people just being like, I don't know. I think my kid should go to Princeton, so we're going to bribe whoever the fuck we want.
Yep.
Because if they don't get to Princeton, then how are they going to make a name for themselves in society and get the life that I think they deserve? Like, I think we have that understanding of how the system works now, maybe even much more than we did in the 1960s. And it's still scary as fuck.
It's such a great read on that too. I had a much more like literal take, which was just you have to get a replacement
Sure. Well, I mean, the guy even
because
said, he's like, we can't advertise.
we can't advertise, but also every time somebody
Uh-huh.
enters into it, they have to die. So we
So,
need a
yeah,
body.
we need a fucking body.
And
Where do you
he's
think
not
those
putting
bodies
two and
came
two
from?
together that like if
No.
you don't find a second, you don't get.
You're the new Mr. Body.
Yeah. Um
I
so
also love
event
that he's
yeah.
like, I can't think of anyone. I don't like, he just refuses to play ball
Yeah.
with them.
Yeah.
He doesn't realize, again, like the idea of a game, he doesn't realize he's in kind of a death match.
Yeah.
And they're giving him a lifeline, and he's just like swatting it away. Like, no, I'll think about it, but I won't really think about it.
I think about all the time of like, where am I protected in this world? Like, you're never fully protected in this
No,
world, right? There are street walk signs in New York City, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't look both ways before
sure.
crossing Flatbush. But there is a world in which there are a series of like rules and regulations for how traffic should work. If I go do bungee jumping somewhere,
Sure.
especially in the United States of America, it's probably pretty heavily regulated. But there
Sure.
is a point where I say, I could go to a haunted house and they're going to
Mhm.
have pretty strict regulations. But when I think about like urban explorers, these people that like kind of go into abandoned,
Oh, sure.
condemned
Yeah,
buildings
yeah.
to get footage and take things, that is when you have stepped outside of the world of being protected.
Welcome to
Where,
anarchy.
and that's where Arthur, Tony is,
Yeah.
and he doesn't understand you are off the grid. You
Yeah.
cannot go to anyone.
Yeah.
Um, I was just reading a story about a 1980s famous 1980s college and later pro athlete named Eric Dickerson. Went to SMU, played running back, was incredible in college, but this was the day and age, and especially with SMU, which later got the death penalty for their football program. They were paying players. They were cheating so bad that the
Oh, God.
NCAA says, done, no more football for
Shuttered.
5 years. Shuttered.
Wow.
They've never done that again because it destroyed. It
Damn.
destroyed
Well,
the
I
athletics
bet.
department there. But Eric Dickerson famously was getting recruited by so many colleges coming out of high school. He went down to Texas A&M University and they wanted him so bad that they bought him a brand new gold T-top Trans Am Firebird.
Sure.
And he's like, "Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you." And he drove it back to Dallas and signed with SMU.
He's like, thank you for this
Because
bribe. It don't mean shit to me.
because Eric Dickerson's response was, "I don't know, fucking call the cops."
Yeah. I don't know.
Because your program's
You
fucked
want
if
to
you
give me a car? That's your prerogative. I'm going to make whatever decision I'm going to make. I will keep this in mind.
Yes. And so where Arthur is here is
Yeah.
he doesn't understand the dynamic of
Yeah.
you can't call the cops. No one is going to investigate your
Yeah.
death because they don't know you exist. You are
Yeah.
off the grid, my dude.
You look different. You sound different.
Uh-huh.
You have a different. There's corroborating evidence. There's
Yep.
people who are willing to stand up and testify. They're like, no, we've never. No, Arthur Hamilton's dead. You're Tony Wilson.
So they
They put him
he
in.
really
They put him
wants
in the
to
pen in the
they
holding room.
yeah, well they go through all like the measurements, photos, calipers, they
Sure.
the flashing lights in his face, whatever. But then they're like, you got to go to the quiet room now. And that's the room we saw
Quiet room.
earlier. And
I nitpicky detail. This is
yeah,
one of the nitpicky details that I had was I kind of wish the casting had been different for the quiet room.
Mm,
people. Because like there's a couple, I mean, it's really cool. The shots are really cool. Like you kind of get these wide, very like deep focus shots where you can kind of see everybody, how they're filling their time. But in the movie in my mind, I was like, wouldn't they all be like young and handsome men? But it's kind of a mishmash of just sort of like normal people
yeah.
and even some older gentlemen.
Uh-huh.
And in my mind, I was like, wouldn't they all be gorgeous 25-year-olds? Like a room full of Rock Hudsons waiting to be plucked out of obscurity.
I think the idea here is because I think when we see Charlie, Charlie is just kind of he's a smaller framed fella.
Yeah.
He is not he's not ugly by any stretch of the imagination, but he's
No.
not like handsome.
Average.
Like
He's average.
he's an average
He's
looking man.
1960s Mad Men average. Yeah.
And I think a lot of these guys are kind of just average-ish.
Okay.
And even Rock Hudson, like he still looks 40. He is 40 in the
Yeah.
making of this movie, and he looks 40, but like a really good
I
40,
mean,
right?
he's the square jawed epitome of,
He's
yeah,
Don Draper. Like he
yeah,
is
yeah,
that epitome of 1960s
yeah.
manhood. And so yeah, I think the impression I got because they also said you are our best one yet.
Yes, yes. He's the
I
kind of
think
the
there
top
is
of
a
the
thing where
line.
like some of these people, like you're just promised a good life. It's not that you're promised sex appeal,
Sure, sure, sure. Just a different life.
a
Yeah,
different life. And some people just didn't vibe with the life they were given.
yeah,
And so they're trying again. And he refuses to ask anyone else to do it because he understands this is an MLM. I'm
yeah,
not dragging anyone else into this. I'm so miserable. This is
yeah,
just, I paid for it. Just give me the new life.
yeah.
But he meets Charlie. Charlie turns around. He's like, hey, hey, Tony,
Fidelis Eternus.
Fidelis Eternus. Because he can't say I'm Charlie.
No, of course not.
He says Fidelis Eternus. And how long have you been here? Oh, a
A
while.
while. Uh-oh.
And Charlie's like, really thought you'd do better. I really thought this was gonna.
Yeah. I thought you would take to that new life.
And part of that rings false because it's you sold me this not because you believe in these wellness supplements.
Yeah.
You sold me this because you're just trying to make a living.
Yeah. You knew that the only way to get out of the quiet room was to hook your friend Arthur Hamilton.
Uh-huh.
And if, like you earn points with the company, bring in a new recruit. And oh my God, literally they come in and they're like, Charlie, they don't say
Yeah.
his name, but
Mr. Chambers or whatever it
yeah,
is. Yeah.
he literally has tears running down his face.
Yeah.
He's so happy to be called up.
Yeah. Um, and on his way out, Charlie's way out, he says to Tony, to Arthur, I have a feeling you're gonna make it this time.
Ooh, I
And
don't
this is where
know.
Tony goes back to Ruby. Where they had left it was Tony had told Ruby
I'll think
about
about it.
recruiting another person, sponsoring another person. He's like, "Can I
Yeah,
just think about it first?"
yeah. I'll
And
give it some
Ruby's like,
thought.
"That's all we ask is that you
That's
just think
right.
about it." And so when he goes back, Tony's like, "I refuse. I can't. I won't do
No,
it. I
I can't
can't
think of
do
it
it."
right. It's not. Yeah,
And Ruby is mad.
yeah, yeah,
And Tony's like, "Listen, do the surgery. Just give me my new fucking life. I
yeah,
said I'd think about it. I thought about it. I don't want to do it. Give me my new life. Let's move on. Give me the surgery." And he's like, "Go back to the day room."
yeah. Okay. And I think at some point he's like, all right, looks like Tony Wilson is ready for the 27B procedure.
Uh-huh.
He's got 27 bead.
Man.
Middle of the
So,
night, he's asleep in his bed.
uh-huh.
The creepiest, friendliest old grandpa in the world comes into his room
That
again.
the guy from the beginning who talked him
Yeah.
into it.
The CEO of the company.
Uh-huh. This is an incredible speech because he
Yeah.
does the I'd hoped you made it, you would make it, that you would find your dream come true. Then he starts talking about how he made this company and they're still working on it. He says, I guess we do have a high percentage of failures still.
Mhm.
That's one. Two, he developed this process and they're always trying to better it because the old man, comes from the mindset of, you know, you build the business from the ground up and you
Yep.
hold to your product and you guarantee it and you have a relationship with your customers and you have a promise to make your product better because your customers need better. However, he mentions there was a point where I never could get it right and I would have just shut the whole thing down. But we've got a board of directors now.
Yeah.
It's bigger than me. It has to keep going.
Oh my God.
Too many
Darks.
people are invested now.
Yeah.
I can't shut down the Dow chemical plant that's just
Oh
pouring
my God.
acid into the
Yeah.
rivers,
No, no,
like I
because
can't.
it's too big to fail.
Too big to fail. And that
Now,
is harrowing. Like the indictment of capitalism right there. I was like,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Now, so another aspect of this speech that I found haunting is he's talking about, he's like, I was just a young kid who had a dream to help people out and make things better. And I followed my dream. I pursued my dream and I made this company, which was to help other people follow their dreams. But like you said, I guess we have a pretty high fail percentage. And I guess some people just don't have dreams.
Uh-huh.
And like Tony Wilson is not hearing this of like, again, no matter where you go, there you are. We can give you a new life, a new career. We can give you new friends. We can give you the perfect house. But if you don't have that dream in your heart to follow, there's kind of nothing we can do about that.
It's very true. It's very, very true.
And it's also the power dynamic of like, I had a dream and I followed it. You thought you are you're the hollow man.
Yeah.
Oh God, it chills. It gives me fucking chills.
He's not wrong. So they come in with the stretcher and Tony's like, wait, right now? We're doing this now? He's like,
We're
yep,
doing it
it's your
now. Yeah.
time.
You've been 27 bead.
You've been 27 bead. And they put him on the stretcher and then they heavy
Oh yeah.
strap him down. He's like, what are these for? Oh, so you don't fall off.
I know, with the smile on his face, the happiest grandpa in the world. Just so you don't fall off. Don't worry. Goodbye.
The
He's like, yeah, yeah.
funhouse absurdity here of this final
Oh yeah.
sequence.
It's a yes, yes. It's a little like Snake Pit exploitative, this last sequence. But I think what makes it true kind of dark humor satire is this fucking priest.
Yep, totally.
It's so absurd and so like we need this moment of kind of levity, dark humor to make this last scene work.
Yeah, because it's bleak. Because we're watching a
Oh yeah,
man
being led to
understand
death. Yeah.
they're going to kill him.
Oh yeah.
They put a gag in his mouth, and it
Yep.
is just him struggling with his upper shoulders through
Yep.
head, thrashing about for a couple of minutes, like
Yeah.
trying and muffled screaming. It's brutal. It's very torturous to watch. But here's this priest being like, "So did you change religion at any point in your life? Did you
When you became a second, yeah, did you
yeah, the
convert?
Protestantism you grew up with, you still are that,
You're still with
right?" And
that?
he's like, I guess, yeah." And he's like, "Okay." But I mean, because the thing is that like you know, not to say that the Protestants are any better than the
No.
Catholics or the Jews. It's in fact, I am ordained as a rabbi, a priest, and a minister.
I love that. I love that. Like just like okay, I'm here to give you your last rites, and I'm like I am professionally, and I can do it for no matter what your major religion is. Here we go,
And it's
strapped
so
in.
amazing because we just learned how they can forge all
Yeah,
kinds of certification
yeah.
that
And it's that thing of like they're going through the motion to
uh
make, like, oh, it's so indicative of that century, that mid-century idea of
uh-huh.
they're like, I don't know, just say the words, the faith will follow.
Yeah. Yeah.
even though it's also invocative of giving the last rites to a death row
Yes.
inmate. You know, like
Yeah.
that's the implication is that you're going to the chamber.
Yeah. And then the dryness of, the doctors kind of describing like what did they say? How is his
Oh
body going to be
yeah.
found dead? And they're like, car accident, there'd be brain hemorrhaging.
Yeah, he has a brain hemorrhage in his back. Let's say, I don't know, let's put it in the left
Yeah.
hematoma,
Yeah, so
medical
like
term, medical
pointing
term.
behind his ear where like yeah. And the
But
surgeon
he
says,
leans in real close.
yeah,
It's like, I thought you were my best one yet. My best work yet.
sorry it has to end like this. And he fires up the drill. The sound of a cranial drill is always going to be
Yeah.
haunting.
Yep.
And he moves it down toward his head, and we fade to white. You hear that drill hit something,
Oh
and
yeah.
then
Like there's a change in that tone.
and then it the scene shifts to another kind of like fish-eyed warped view, but it's a beach, and at a distance you can see the figure of what looks like a man with a kid, probably a daughter, on
Yeah.
his shoulder by the beach, which I'm presuming is Arthur's sort of last memory is him with his
Yep.
daughter when she
Yeah.
was a little girl. Um, Man, I'm
The
still
end.
the end. I just want to say, like, I had not like the kind of like brief indictment of capitalism that happens was really interesting, but I hadn't thought until you brought it up a few minutes ago that this movie really is about nepotism and cultural and economic privilege and the way
Yeah.
in which the structures of society are built to help people
Yeah. To keep you
that
once
are,
you're in, you're in. Your
yeah,
family is in. Your generational wealth will keep you in unless you
yeah.
like do something insanely egregious. And even then, they'll find a way to like help forgive you for it.
And here you have so this movie doesn't deal at all whatsoever with the people with the have-nots.
Yeah.
Like it
No,
never
no, no.
touches on the have-nots whatsoever. But it's an interesting look at the haves because here's a person who is a have,
Hmm.
who has the cultural cachet, who has the white Protestant
Went to Harvard,
maleness. Yeah,
was
Scarsdale.
tennis captain,
Yes. And even still, he's just
feels empty.
absolutely incompetent at understanding what's being given to him because what's being given to him was never something that was going to fill him.
Yeah. He's like, I have my boat. They're
Oh, the
like,
most
oh,
depressing
okay. You
line,
got
but
your
you don't
boat.
have your daughter.
Yeah. Now, I do have one critique, and this was interesting. There was a deleted scene
Uh-huh.
in which you get to meet the daughter
Oh.
and her husband, who was played by Leonard Nimoy, which makes me so sad that we are
Oh.
deprived of young Leonard Nimoy. But this ending, I loved it, but I felt like that there was that connection with the daughter that was kind of missing throughout the movie,
Uh-huh.
because we see Arthur Hamilton misfire connection with his wife, but I feel like that parent-child bond is different.
Yeah.
And it's kind of talked about in third person, but we never see it. So I understand probably they cut it for time, they cut it for whatever reason. It just, and apparently the scene was like Arthur meeting with his daughter and her husband, and this baby is just screaming the entire time. So they're trying to talk sort of banal coffee talk,
Uh-huh.
but it's just like this baby is like screaming. And
Oh,
it's so
interesting.
like even the parent child, grandparent child bond is like strained in his
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. Well, the end, shall we rate this film?
Yes, let's.
I mean, how approachable is this movie if you're horror film averse on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not at all approachable, 10 being easily approachable? Why don't we give Seconds like a 9 out of 10
Sure.
tennis trophies? Like it's scary. Like I said, like the beginning, especially the ending sequence. This is harrowing watching this man being carted down the hallway. Like this is very much like death row inmate on his way. And also the horror there is very extreme, but like and the surgery stuff, never graphic, but evocative.
Yeah.
So this movie is going to give you lots of feelings, but I'm talking about as a horror film. I think people who are averse to horror often are averse to the jump scares or the
The blood, the guts,
outlandish
the yeah.
tragedy of decision making and things like that, and the blood and the guts. And none of that is here. This is a tragedy. This is harrowing. This is sci-fi. There is horror here, but I think
Yeah.
it's really approachable. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful film, if very depressing. So 9 out of 10 for approachability from me. Cecil, just as a horror film, to speak nothing of approachability, what did you think?
I really love this. As a horror film, I think this might maybe fall more into the thriller category,
Hmm.
but I think it has that Shirley Jackson-esque feeling of dread to it,
Uh-huh.
of who this sort of mid-century, mid 20th century, like who are you?
Hmm.
Where do you fit in society? Sort of horror. Don't trust anybody. You're like, which is the kind of horror that creeps up on you, that like this movie will resonate with you. And I think the longer you think about it, the more horrific it becomes.
Yes.
But is it like scary, scary? Nah, not really.
No.
It's creepy and it's definitely haunting, but it's not
Uh-huh.
like scary. So for
No.
that reason, I'm going to put it right in the middle and say 5 out
Yeah.
of 10 Malibu beach houses.
Lovely. Let's figure out what movie we are going to watch next. You've got a scare die. I've got a style die. We'll roll those up, see what movie matches those two things. So on our scare die roll right now, Cecil, if you roll a one, our next movie has to feature Altered States, two, Vampire, three, Wild Card, whatever scare we want, four, Mother Earth, five, Toys and or Puppets, six, Psycho Killer.
That's a 5.
Finally gonna get the Toys and
Oh, I
Puppets.
love it.
So exciting. Okay, so let's match up your toys and puppets with my style that I roll. So if I roll a one, it's got to be something taking place in a college university type setting. Two, it's got to be a one-word title. Three, a sequel, prequel, or remake. Four, Giallo-esque or Giallo. I know there's one at least. Um,
Gelato, I like to say. It's Giallo or Gelato, which is
mhm.
next to Giallo.
If I roll a five, it's got to be something from the noughties, something from 2000 to 2009. Or six, a splatter film with toys and or puppets. What do we got here? I've got a four. That is Giallo.
Oh,
Toys
okay,
puppet.
here we go.
Okay, so
We
Cecil
have
and I keep a
we
list.
have, we have one
Uh-huh.
film.
Maybe people on Letterboxd. We're at Random Horror 9 on Letterboxd, and if you'd like to follow us there, we keep lists on our Letterboxd account of possible die roll matchups. So, Cecil, tell us the one we put on our list.
We put on it. It's we only have one, but it's a good one, and it's Deep Red.
Yep.
It's got. I've never seen this movie. I think I've started it and was just like not in the mood for it.
Yeah.
In my, I was like, I can't watch this right now, which is fair.
Yeah.
But so I'm really excited to watch this movie. This is kind of considered like one of the best Giallo films out there. And it's got like psychic stuff, it's got creepy toys and puppets. I think this is a great choice.
Yeah. This is Dario Argento as well.
Yep.
So looking at our letterboxed, it's pretty simple what people have. Do you want to tell us what people said on our letterboxed account, Cecil?
Let's see here. Suspicious Beans recommends a film called Curtains from 1983. A group of actresses auditioning at a remote mansion for a film are murdered one by one. I love how like all the plots are going to sound exactly the same for the Giallo
Uh-huh.
movies because they are always exactly the same. But this we have actresses in a film. The doll toy element comes in with the doll showing up at certain times at very important Halloween masks. Ooh, okay, I'll buy
Okay,
that.
yeah, this looks good.
Cronenberg TA seconds Deep Red. It's Ashley recommends Kill Baby Kill, Giallo that features a doll as well. And I've heard of Kill Baby Kill as like a very popular Giallo. I don't know
Uh-huh.
anything about it though.
This is a Mario Bava from
Oh, love it.
1966, same year as Seconds.
Okay.
It's a 20th century European village is haunted by the ghost of a murderous little girl.
Uh-oh.
And the poster does have a creepy fucking looking doll on it too.
Okay. All right. I'll
And
buy
so
that.
yeah, Mario Bava also like
kind of the godfather of if Argento is like the father, Mario
Yeah.
Bava's kind of the godfather then,
Yeah.
right? Ganymede's Cup recommends Francesca from 2015, a giallo inspired, or gelato, as I like to. Is
Uh-huh.
my new phrase. A gelato movie with a creepy doll directed by Luciano Onetti from Argentina.
Interesting.
Italy, 1970, sinister shadow of a mysterious serial killer obsessed with Dante's Divine Comedy hunts down all those whose souls are evil and impure. Inspectors Moretti and
Interesting.
Succo, in charge of solving the case, suspect that the wave of murder is related to a horrible crime committed 15 years earlier. Interesting.
Oh, this is so good. This is really interesting. Yeah, this is an Italian director, but from 2017 or 15 or
Yeah,
whatever.
2015. But
Yeah.
like set in the 1970s. Oh, I love a little like
Mm,
homage. I love an homage.
so good.
Weaponized Toaster, Thirds, Deep Red, and also recommends Ghost House from 1988, Italian horror about a deserted house where the visions of a ghostly girl and her haunted doll wreak havoc on
Oh,
those who
yeah.
enter it.
This is the most 1980s looking bullshit I've ever seen. This is so good. Umberto
Oh,
Lenzi.
wow.
Yep.
Wow. Is she cutting into? Oh my God, this doll looks unhinged. This doll looks so fucking unhinged. What is happening here?
Okay.
Okay. I, to
Francesca and
be,
Curtains sound great. I
yeah.
think our options here are Kill Baby Kill and Deep Red because
I,
these are legendary.
and I think, like, honestly, let's just do Deep Red.
I think we need to do Deep
I
Red.
think that's the move.
Yeah.
Like, listen, it's been hard to do Giallo under some of these because Giallo is a very specific kind of movie that usually involves no supernatural elements. You can have Italian horror movies with vampires and warlocks and blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
but a Giallo is like a black glove killer killing a bunch of people. Who
Yep.
done it?
Yep.
So the fact that we got a good dice roll, we got a toy and a doll in there somewhere, Dario Argento, let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's go watch this on Shudder or wherever your subscriptions are. I think this is also a Criterion
Oh
film
yeah.
as well. Well, thank you all for listening. Thank you, Cecil, for talking with me. And if you have thoughts on Seconds or other ideas for Giallo or Giallo inspired toys, dolls, horror movies, let us know at Random Horror 9 on either Instagram or Patreon. Patreon, by the way, we have these public discussion threads for each episode, and you do not need to be a paying member to participate in those. So watch Deep Red 1975 with us this week and come on back next Tuesday for a new episode. Have a restful night with no old friends hard selling you on their new wellness program or nothing. Ooh, ah.
Boo.